Satan, Lucifer, Belial, Leviathan, Samael. Satan, Lucifer, Belial, Leviathan, Samael.
Satan, I ask for your divine guidance to open the gates of infernal wisdom for the listener. Satan, rise from hell to your rightful throne above the stars of heaven and those who cast truth asunder. Leviathan, Belial, Azazel, let your knowledge shine brightly to light the way in this world subdued by ignorance. Lucifer, we build your altar of illumination amongst the thorns and thistles of lascivious hate and await your seed. Shaitan, we have come to sow our seeds into barren chambers and usher your satanic arrival triumphant. Zepar, Balan, Raum, Cain, Perta, demons of old, come forth and reveal your wisdom and fulfill your desires. Consecro, Satanas, we shall boldly rip their temple veil from bottom to top and procure your celestial tribunal. Antichrist, seed of Lucifer, we shall await your arrival to inherit your kingdom. Satan, devour their dominion and break their vassal chains of our silence to allow truth to finally be known to all. Nephilim of old, disgrace and dishonor those who called unblemished and chosen, finally revealing their hoax, defamation, and true motivations. Astaroth, cast down their star so that it will be shattered, splintered, and scattered forever among the ephemeral winds. Asmodeus, the dust of pulverized bones shall pave the established pathway of satanic enlightenment. Satan, never again shall their lies be considered factual, their propaganda, lecherous attacks, and fallacious bloodlines revealed. Satan, Lucifer, Belial, Leviathan, Asmodeus, bestow your satanic blessings upon us. So mote it be.
Welcome. This is Aleister Noct. Thank you for being with me this evening for this episode. This is going to be a real good episode, a lot of good information in this one, and I thank you for being a Patreon. Thank you for spending some time with me, and I'd like to dedicate this event to Magister Cygnus. So if you're out there, Cygnus, or you watch this after the fact, satanic blessings to you. Marie and Les, good to see you there this evening. Welcome, and satanic blessings. Our topic this week is scrying, and this is an interesting part of satanic magic to me. I learned about scrying in New Orleans back in the 80s, and I was always fascinated with it. The way that it's done, the method, the meaning, and it works. It works. I have experienced it many, many, many times, and I still experience it today. And it's used as part of some rituals, and it's also used as a soul practitioner. I have one on my home altar, and a scrying mirror, that is. And I take a great deal of pleasure using it. So I hope that you find this information to be value added. It is one of the satanic processes, and obviously that's what this series is about. Before we go into that, I want to point out that there are many, many, many different ways of scrying, and we're going to cover those in the presentation. However, there are others as well. So, as you're going through, just be aware that different people use scrying for different purposes, but they also have different methods and means for doing so. So keep that in mind as you watch the presentation. Tonight's topic, scrying. I hope you get a satanic blessing out of this. Tonight's message is on scrying. Scrying has been around for a very, very long time, and it is a very important part of magic and satanic magic. So we'll delve into that in depth tonight. First, let's charge the words. Satanas, we ask for your guidance to open the gates of infernal wisdom for the listener. Demons of the pit, reveal that which is beyond the veil. So mote it be. Some of the references that I will be using tonight are Satanism and Devil Worship, Magnae Sapientiae Satanas, and the Grimoire of Tiamat, as well as others which I will call out as we're going through the material. The definition of scry actually comes from the base word descry, which means to catch sight of, or also known as espy. It is known as the gateway to the astral plane, and one of the descriptions that I've found that I really like for this is the babbling brook for the eyes. If you've ever been around flowing water or have been pouring water into a vessel, you will get a certain babbling sound that can actually form words. And so by this description, this means that you're simply doing the same thing with your eyesight instead of your ears. Scrying is also known as gazing, visioning, discerning, reflecting, and there's quite a few of these shown here. One thing that I will point out is it's sometimes referred to as hydromancy, and that refers more to the gazing into the liquid or fluid type of scrying. It's also known as mirroring or communing as well. So these are just some things that you have probably heard, and you can relate those to scrying. Scrying is the art of looking into a medium, any medium, like a black mirror, or into the surface of water, a crystal globe, or even something that is very patterned to discern information from. And scrying is often done through mirrors, and we will talk about that a little later in the presentation. Scrying allows direct communication with your meditative subconscious, and your subconscious then speaks using symbols and shapes and words. And I've described that in my book, Satanism and Devil Worship. Sometimes words are not the appropriate medium to be able to convey or communicate the meaning of something, and scrying is certainly one of those things. If you practice scrying frequently, it will help you to open the third eye chakra and establish a communication channel from the other side of the veil. And many people during their practice of satanic magic will use scrying as a vehicle to enter into the astral plane as well. The Grimoire of Tiamat gives us some insight into scrying here with this passage. A specific tool used in the rites of evocation is the mirror. It serves as a living portal to the other side, a gateway through which energies of the night side flow into the temple, and through which the intent is carried onto the higher planes. Scrying is also mentioned by the Church of Satan in the early days. Actually, a quote here from Anton LaVey that scrying and the Enochian language itself, which came from scrying, actually appeared in print in 1659 in a biography of John Dee, who again was associated with the Enochian language and the Enochian keys. This work by Merrick Casaubon describes the occultist John Dee's activities with his associate Edward Kelly in the art of scrying or crystal gazing. Also, Michael Aquino mentions that Barnabas Saul was John Dee's scryer, and that John Dee learned a lot about the practice of scrying from Barnabas Saul. From the demonic Bible, we have this demonic language revealed to John Dee during his scrying experiments. This script has been called by various names, but the most commonly known is the Theban script, or witch's alphabet. And so this was delivered to John Dee through scrying. And I have done episodes on the Theban, earlier episodes in this series on the satanic processes. And it is, again, something that scrying reveals a lot, and the interpretation of the meaning has really helped a lot of practitioners and continues to help and benefit us even today. If you're interested in more information about John Dee's interaction with spirits, including the Enochian language and the keys, there's a very interesting dissertation that was submitted as part of a PhD by Christopher Lionel Whidbey, and I recommend it. You can Google it, and it's a very interesting read and really goes into the revelations by John Dee. The earliest known use of scrying comes from China about 3000 BC, and that form or methodology was where eggs would be cracked and open, and the contents of the egg would be interpreted. Greeks and Romans also told the future from pools of water or streams, and they called this divination, which was predominantly concerned with discerning the will of gods or superhuman entities such as ghosts or demons. Romans actually had a name for this person that was trained to read or inspect the entrails of an animal, usually a sheep, and that name is Horospec. And this person was actually trained and could, through dissection of the entrails, read the future. Here we see a diagram of the liver of Piacenza, and it's actually a diagram of the sheep's liver. And so scryers would be able to actually examine the organ and then go to this as a template to help them discern what was trying to be said from the other side of the veil. Covering mirrors and the association of mirrors being a link to the other side has been around since antiquity. Mourning the dead has traditionally involved covering the mirrors to prevent the mirrors being used by ghosts or spirits. As a matter of fact, the Romanian and Hungarian Jews believed that ghosts could carry the soul away through mirrors, and those souls would never be able to rest. Therefore, the mirrors in the home were covered. Usually, the funeral or the wake was held in the home because there was really no such thing as a funeral home back then, and so these mirrors and anything reflective would be covered for that reason. Christians and Catholics as well developed traditions, as we see in the Irish lineage. Some would say that when staring into the mirror, you would actually see the devil looking over your shoulder. And others believe that the mirror trapped the soul of the deceased. In Russia, we would also see that the family covers mirrors with black material to ease the deceased's journey into the other life. There are as many different types of scrying as there are words to describe scrying, and some of those include the mirror scrying, also smoke scrying or water scrying, also known as hydromancy, scrying into a globe or a crystal ball, and other forms as well. Candles are usually placed on either side of the mirror during mirror scrying, and this would improve the reflective brilliance during the actual event. Mirrors hold a reflection, and that reflection is the entryway into the spirit realm, also known as a portal through the veil. Some practitioners don't use a mirror. Some use the glow of a candle. Others will use the smoke of incense and interpret those images produced by the smoke. Others would pour hot wax from a candle into cold water and observe and interpret the shapes that take form. Gazing into another person's eye has also been used in the past, and this is commonly known as the connective scrying method. The Hermetic order used scrying extensively, and as a matter of fact, Carol Polk Runyon actually has some videos that are out there that actually show scrying within their temple of the OTA, and actually calling forth an ancient, and that particular ancient, through a medium or a clairvoyant, will actually reveal certain messages which in the future time period would be interpreted by poke runyon, and the intermediary as well. This is all part of Hermetic yoga, which really came into predominantly into the 70s and 80s time frame, and was claimed to be a very, very effective way of performing magic and magical operations. If you haven't read the Book of Solomon's Magic by Poke Runyon, it is a noteworthy read, and the practitioner can find some really good information in there that, while it may not fit prima facie case on point for the satanic practitioner, there are some really good takeaways that can be easily adapted into the practice of satanic magic. My experience with scrying and learning scrying actually took place in the 1980s in New Orleans. The scrying method was predominantly hoodoo, with some influences of voodoo as well. And there is a movie that is closely related with that and kind of explains some of the subculture in southern Louisiana, and it's called The Skeleton Key, and I highly recommend it. While it does take some creative licenses, it is good information and does kind of cover the top layer of hoodoo and the hoodoo belief, especially with mirror scrying. It's called The Skeleton Key, and Kate Hudson stars in it, and she did a really fantastic job in that role. Again, from the Grimoire of Tiamat, we read, mirrors specifically recommended for the work are simple black mirrors with smooth, non-reflective surfaces large enough to comfortably focus on during the ritual. Again, the comfort of the practitioner and being able to really relax the mind, spirit, and body is really important for getting into the methodology of scrying. A simple black vessel filled with any black liquid, ink, dye, or water that contains dye is fine for the work, as pointed out here again in the grimoire. It provides a suitable gateway and a point of focus, and the vessel should be consecrated as part of magical working and not used for any other purpose. So you would not want to use a kitchen implement or a kitchen utensil or bowl or vessel that you use in everyday type cooking. You would not want to use that. This would be something that is dedicated to this specific work. Constructing a scrying vessel or an implement is relatively easy, and here I give a description of the easiest way to do, and this is from my book Satanism and Devil Worship, and this is really how to put together a scrying mirror. So you can start with a regular picture frame and remove the glass and spray paint one side of it. Put the glass back in with the sprayed side facing away from you, and then when you look into the glass, you will see reflections. Again, using a candle or candles will help facilitate being able to see that reflection. The room should be very dimly lit with just enough light that you can see a surface reflection. If you're using one candle, you would want to place that candle where the reflection of the candle can be seen by you in the mirror. If you're using two candles, it's customary to put those on either side of the mirror. And what you're really looking for is your reflection as being illuminated by the candles in the mirror itself. Also, burning incense, something favorable to you, sage or other incense, or using some kind of essential oil in a diffuser helps you to kind of slip into that meditative state and makes the scrying much more effective as well. You should stare into the medium, whatever it is, without concentrating too much. Again, you're wanting to kind of go into a reflective mind state and really not think too much. You want to slow your mind, slow your metabolism and your body and your heart rate using the relaxation methods that we have discussed in previous episodes, and be able to kind of bring yourself into this reflective state of mind. And it may take 10 to 15 minutes, and usually it will take longer for the neophyte or even the acolyte as they're beginning to do this process the first few times. Another important part of this is don't forget the ends. At the end of this event, whether it's a ritual or just scrying event, the practitioner should grab that grimoire and record their thoughts and impressions and anything that really happened during the event. Now, this is going to be very, very important that you capture that so that you can go back later and review it. In fact, as you go back to it, you're going to begin to formulate what the meaning is. And for accurate interpretation of the meaning, it's going to take practice and patience. Don't be too critical about not being able to come up with a meaning right after the scrying event. It very rarely happens that way. In fact, it may take days or even weeks that you will go back to your grimoire and you will update it with more commentary as your vision evolves. So again, be patient with yourself as you're going through this. And some people will use scrying to interpret past events, which is certainly what I do. And some people claim that they can actually see into the future and tell future events. I cannot. However, there are those out there that can, and certainly we all receive different gifts of the satanic spirit, and you may be one of those that can do that. Either way, scrying is a wonderful way to really gain access to the other side and communicate with the spirits as well. So I hope you've enjoyed this presentation, and leave me your thoughts and your comments over in Patreon, because each person's experience is going to be different with this, and we can share that information within our Patreon community. So I hope you enjoyed that on scrying. As I said before, to me it's a very fascinating part of the satanic processes, and it's something that truly reveals every time you do it, or at least in my experience, that is the way that I find it. As I pointed out in the presentation, I cannot tell the future with scrying. There are those that say that they can, and I trust their word on that. I don't really know. I have never truly experienced something like that was a prophecy, so to speak, that actually came true from scrying, from a scrying event. So I really can't say yay or nay. I will not go as far as to insult someone's practice. If they say they can do it, I've never experienced it. However, there are things that I have experienced while doing that were powerful events, and they really left an indelible mark on me. And so I started using it again back in the 80s, and have really had some fantastic results with that. Something that's peculiar, again, kind of referring to the gifts of the Satanic Spirit, is I can scry to understand something in the past that affects me. I can't scry to understand someone else or their experience. And it's not that I have not tried, but I cannot do it. It's not a gift of the Satanic Spirit. And so it does benefit me, but if it were something that I wanted to try to interpret someone's dream through scrying, or their daily event through scrying, I simply cannot do that. That's my limitation with that. So let me know what your thoughts are, as I said, over in Patreon. And also, one last takeaway is don't be too critical. As you're going through this and you're doing it, or learning to do it, or maybe you look back over time when you first started doing it, and you found that maybe you were a little aggravated because the results would not come. That's normal. Again, I find that it's very frustrating for a lot of neophytes, and even acolytes as well. Those who help in the Satanic Temple during certain rituals and things like that, they will become frustrated because it either does not happen with such zest that they're expecting, or they just simply have no result whatsoever. And it could be that this is not their spiritual gift. And so you kind of have to give it a fair shake and give it a try before you completely understand that this is or is not your particular gift. I did have a question, and I wanted to address that question here about the series. So the question goes something to the effect of, Aleister, we seem to be getting these overview videos, and we're not really digging into the subject matter in the application or the correlation phase. And you're absolutely right. We have to start somewhere, as I have said before. This is something that you can't grasp, and you can't pick it up and do it without understanding some of the background behind it, some of the workings of it. And so that's what these particular videos are for. And if you're getting restless, or you're wanting to go ahead and you're wanting to do some of these things, you feel like that you're just not progressing fast enough, I encourage you to be patient, because you're going to have a clear understanding of some of this, and some of this, while it is introductory material, there's a lot of good stuff that we're going to use when we start putting these things together and we start actually showing the satanic process. I'm not going to have time during those short videos to explain what scrying is, or sigils, or how to use those. I'm going to be focused on telling you what works for me. And so I find that this is going to be the best way to do it, because I could just go straight into a satanic ritual and show the different processes. However, I would probably have more questions than I could answer on that. So be patient, get a good foundation under your satanic building, and then let's build upon that. I thank you again for being a patron. From the bottom of my heart, you make this work possible. Without you, this would not happen at all. So thank you very much for your commitment and your generous giving. Thank you. Satanic blessings to you. And until next time, this has been Aleister Knocked. Hail Satan.